I think you also have to take account what the part of the market you're going to be in, and this is part of the reason I want to separate out the short-term debt market. The short-term debt market doesn't deal with uncertainty well at all. Even after, and I'm sure, Don, you remember this, even after the government guaranteed everything, the short-term bond funds wanted legal opinions on every instrument for a while to make sure that was really true, right? So I think the problem that has most of its concern in executing an SPOE is how long will it take the buy side to get comfortable with what's actually happened and filling that gap, right? Because the short-term funding market just isn't very good at dealing with institutional uncertainty. I think people are very comfortable with the notion that you can super capitalize these entities. Not just capitalize them, but super capitalize them. But whether, in fact, you can get the buy side to get that into their system or not, right, I think is substantially uncertain, and particularly on the non-bank side. And I think that's the gap, the bridge financing that has people concerned, is what do you do with that? And then you have the sort of unrelated stuff. You know, Charlie made that speech about nothing's ever been having to do except with solvency. Well, we all have recently lived through these types of runs in Europe, where as each country got into trouble and people had questions about deposited funds, governments had to step in and effectively guarantee stuff to stop the runs, right? You get contamination risk all the time in these high-stress environments. And so it's also not clear that you won't need to supply liquidity in that context to all sorts of related firms in this, and related in the following sense, might have similar exposures. Right? And we've seen that occur many times.
So I guess the question would be whether the Fed would be constrained against doing that through a broadly available
that's right.
facility or not.
I mean, my job in the '87 crash was to make sure that Cy Keen called enough banks to make sure enough broker-dealers, futures merchants, and everything else could open the next day. Right? The concern was not about the banks.
But
let me just say one thing. I mean, just one observation. I mean, one can create as many hypotheticals as you want, but what's the realistic probability that a GSIFI will fail idiosyncratically, blow through $500 billion of treasuries with a problem that is unique to that institution so that the conditions associated with 13.3 won't be readily available? That's not going to happen.
I agree. You're going to have all of them at once.
Right. You know, and so the reality
but who's going to fund all of them at once?
Well, I mean, that's where the lender of last resort has to come in to stop a crisis of confidence.